Greetings, salutations, and good now. Welcome back to the channel. My name is Kevis Major, doing it major. And welcome to our weekly review. We're going to be talking about, the astrological alignments and aspects that are going to be, potent for this week, April 20th up until the 26th. Okay, so the 20th up until the 26th of 2026. This is a powerful week. Because if you just look at the numbers, the 20th to the 26th of 2026 in April, all right, so the numbers are saying something to us. And also, we are, you know, experiencing the first of the Taurus season. So today is a big day, a powerful day. Um, I did a video all about Taurus. We're not going to dive too much into the Taurus energy because I think I did a great video about the Taurus energy. So I think I'm gonna just tag it here, and you guys could go there and get all of the gems about Taurus energy. But before we go into the weekly forecast, we're gonna just do a quick overview. So we know that Aries is the spark, associated with the first house, the first zodiac sign. And so it's the spark, it's the I am, it's the fire, it's the initiator. Um, and then Taurus comes in, which is more of the sustainer. So the Taurus mantras are usually I have, I value, I sustain, I grow. Um, and stuff like this. Taurus is an earth sign, so it deals with, it's fixed as well, so it deals with stability, consistency, value, patience, material reality, material success, the body, the senses, pleasure, beauty, money, and what you're willing to commit to over a long period of time. So Taurus is not fast, it's not impulsive like Aries, but it's deliberate, and so it deals with what you're building over time. Okay. Taurus energy is good for, continue to plant seeds, tending to growth, creating security, stability, the conducive environments for growth, enjoying life through the senses, and turning effort into tangible results. Okay, so we know that Aries was that initiation, that spark, but now it's time for us to stabilize. All right, so this week is about stability. Um, so the highest expression of the Taurus, attributes or characteristics are, and I think you guys should note this down because this is what we need to practice this week and for this month. All right, and take these characteristics, compound them into the future. All right, so being reliable, being patient, grounded, loyal, sensual, determined, consistent, resourceful, and appreciative of beauty and quality. All right. So make sure you guys note that down. I'll try to put that on the screen. All right. So the Taurus energy again understands the slow grind. Okay. Slow growth is still growth. So this week we may not experience much change, but again, we're just trying to practice those characteristics that are going to compound into long term growth. Taurus again is a sign that builds wealth, builds systems, it builds your body and skills over time. All right. So work on your skills, work on your body, work on your wealth. I mean, there's a lot of things to focus on, but that's why, the zodiac system is good because it chops up everything and gives you, a good 30 days to put in the work. All right. So we're going to be connecting deeper to our money, our assets, our value, things that you own, financial security, um, and asking yourself certain questions like this. You know, this is the energy that asks, "What do you value, sorry, and what are you building? What are you trying to sustain?" And the worth that your time and energy brings to a person, place, thing, circumstance, or situation. All right, so that was a bit of the Taurus energy in a nutshell. Before we go into the weekly forecast, though, we're going to talk about the shadow side. Okay, so we already had a idea of, the positive characteristics, Taurus is ruled by Venus, and so there is a heavy emphasis of affection, sensuality, loyalty, physical expression, connecting through touch, comfort, taste, presence, just being slow and consistent. However, there's a shadow side or a dark side to the Taurus energy that we need to avoid. All right, so I'll make another list right here of things that we need to avoid or things that we need to try to shy away from. All right, and we have, the lower expressions like being stubborn. All right, fixated earthly energy could be quite headstrong, could be quite stubborn, resistant to change. Okay, stuck in your ways, lazy or complacent. Again, ruled by Venus, so you're just comfortable with, your level of or your quality of life. Overly attached to comfort. Again, we just kind of touched on that. Materialism, fixated earth in the shadow side. Possessive, again, fixated earth. Fearful of loss, again, fixated earth. Stuck in routines, fixated earth. So just that real, lower expressions of the fixated earth energy. And so Taurus people could hold on too tightly to people, places, things, circumstances, situations, money, habits, and there's things that make them comfortable. And so during this Taurus season, yes, we're trying to, build stability, we're trying to build structure, we're trying to harness the conducive environments for growth. However, it doesn't mean being stuck in your comfort zone. Okay, building stability doesn't have to be comfortable, it doesn't look like comfort. Okay, so the lesson is to build stability, but don't become trapped by it. Don't become trapped in your comfort zones and your routines. Okay, so again, it's all about endurance. However, Taurus never let people see them sweat. And so there's a certain level of artistry and beauty to what they do. They're quite consistent and just present. Um, and when you think about the Taurus energy, again, we're thinking about longevity, we're thinking about influence and affluence over time, having a presence, physical presence, also associated with your throat chakra. So, maybe being a bit more vocal, showing presence again, and also having tangible results. So, artistic or financial success. Okay, so we need to also mention just before we go forward that there was a powerful new moon that we experienced on the 17th of April, and that was in Aries. Okay, so now as we record this, we had the new moon that was exciting. It was a transition from being inspiring, new beginnings, igniting things. And now we're shifting into being more grounding, building, sustaining, adding on or sustaining what we've built. And so the question for the Tower season is, can you commit? All right, can you commit to what you sparked in the Aries season? And so the theme for this week is spark to structure. Last week was, igniting, the flame. And this week is about stabilizing. Okay, so moving from a fast, emotional, impulsive energy to being a lot more grounded, serious, intentional, and structured. So this is where, ideas become plans, your desires, become discipline, and your energy has to be directed. All right. So these are the astrological events or happenings for this week. We have, where's the dates? Okay, we got the dates here, but we got Sun moving into Taurus. We got Mercury conjunct Saturn, Mercury conjunct Mars, Venus conjunct Uranus. So we got a lot of conjunctions early on in the week. Then we have Venus entering Gemini, Uranus entering Gemini, Sun squares Pluto, Mercury sextiles Jupiter, Venus sextiles Jupiter. Sorry for the little drag there, but we could see that this is a Taurus season, but it's going to be dominated by Mercury, conjunctions with Saturn and Mars. And then we also have Venus and Uranus entering Gemini. So a mixed of transits this week. So let's get into the day today and see what we have in the notes, see what's up. Okay, so today, the 20th, Sun enters Taurus. Go Taurus, go Taurus, go Taurus. Shout out to all of the Taurusians celebrating today and for this season. Tauruses are going to be, front and center stage. So we're going to be looking at you as examples of what we're going to be doing and not doing this season. Okay, so as we enter, things are going to start off slow because, again, this energy wants us to slow down, stabilize, ground, and think about what we are building over time. Okay, building something real. So we're moving from starting to sustaining, and it's easy to start something. It's easy to kick off something, but to sustain it over a long period of time, this is where discipline, structure, responsibility, and just having a being realistic comes in. Okay, so as we go forward, things may seem a bit heavier, a bit more serious, um, a bit more focused, but this is good for, our planning, for setting boundaries and also commitments. And so as we enter the Tower season, you know, we're admonished to slow down a bit and get a bit more serious as to our long-term goals. On the 20th as well, we also have Mercury conjuncting Mars. So now the mind heats up a bit because we know Mercury thing deals with thinking, communicating, how we process information, and Mars is that aggressive energy. And so sharp thinking, direct communication, just the energy to, express our opinions and um, whatever we are thinking about. This is also argumentative, impatient, and being overly blunt energy. Um, so say what needs to be said, but try not to burn any bridges. Okay, we've been kind of experiencing Mars, acting up lately. I think we had this transit last week as well, if I'm not mistaken. Um, so we got to be careful with Mars and Mercury. We don't want to say anything that bites us in the butt later. Okay. All right. So we fast forward a few days. Hold on. Let me see if this is correct over here. Seems like we have a little. Okay, we're all good. We fast forward from the 20th all the way to the 24th. Okay, so nothing much happening, no major alignments. Of course, we need to look at what the moon is going to be doing. Moon is in Taurus right now, and so over the next couple of days, it's going to be shifting um, through Gemini, through Cancer, um, and then over into Leo. Let me just pull up AstroSeek. Okay, so nothing major happening until April 24th, where Venus conjuncts Uranus. Okay, so Venus is going to be conjuncting Uranus. Uranus is just going to be right there, last degrees of Taurus, just before it moves into Gemini. And so Venus, um, being in its exalted sign of Taurus, conjuncting Uranus, just unexpected um, events, situations, circumstances surrounding, money, relationships, attraction. So on that day, we're expecting the unexpected, or maybe this is a good day to surprise, someone with some money, or you could get surprised with some money. Exciting, electric, and unpredictable day. Okay, so we could either lean into this or lean out of it, um, but expect the unexpected when it comes to 24th. Also on the 24th, we got Venus, or later in that day, we're gonna have Venus entering Gemini. Okay, so making a little last conjunction with Uranus and then sliding into Gemini, where Venus moving out of its exaltation goes into Gemini, where things are light, social, curious, conversational, flirty, mental connection is also there. And so there's a shift from being deep and grounded and slow and patient to a bit more playful and curious. And so this is, good and bad depending on if you already locked the chick down or if you already, locked that dude down. You might lose out on that opportunity. Same thing for business deals. If you haven't solidified, certain business opportunities, then, they might just drift into the Gemini season. Um, okay, we go forward onto the 26th where Uranus enters Gemini. So it's gonna have a little conjunction with Venus again, still conjuncting for a little while there. And this is gonna be a big, big shift because guess what? Seems like Uranus is a big fan of, that type of Gemini energy. So this is the beginning or begins a long-term shift because Uranus is one of those, long-term generational planets. And so we're gonna have to do a video about this because this one is definitely gonna be huge, where we're going to be seeing major, major shifts when it comes to the way how, we play out the Gemini energy, which is thinking, communicating, processing information, and basically sharing that information. So, communication, technology, information, all of that is going to be changing, and the way how we distribute it and disseminate it is going to change forever. And so, we're going to be expecting rapid changes. Some new rollouts in technology, even new ideas and ideologies, and just a disruption in the general consensus. There's going to be a disruption in how we think and how we communicate in the collective conscious. And so it's probably going to take some time, probably already seeing a few ripple effects. But this is something major that's going to be taking place, not just for us personally, but also for us as a generational collective, if that's even a term. All right, let's fast forward to April 25th, where Sun in Taurus. Sorry for the chickens. It's 4:26 a.m. So the chickens are already coming out to play. All right, so on April 25th, we're gonna have a powerful square. Taurus Sun is gonna be squaring Pluto over there in Aquarius, and this is definitely um a power tension. Taurus and Aquarius usually gets along nicely. However, because of the square aspect, you know, squares are usually considered to be negative aspects, and so it's going to bring up some control struggles, um, showing you where you need to basically transform in certain ways or forms. Taurus is about pleasure. However, Pluto is about, you know, letting things go and breaking things down so they could be renewed. And so something needs to change and you won't be able to ignore it. And so on the 25th, Sun squaring Pluto is going to be showing you, hey, this is where you need to let go. This is what needs to be broken down for you to move forward stronger and better. All right, on the last 2 days, April 26th, we got Mercury sextiling Jupiter, and we also have Venus sextiling Neptune. All right, so sextiles are usually seen as two positive alignments, and so Mercury deals with how we again think, communicate, share that information. Jupiter is expansion, and so, opportunities for expansion, abundance, maybe some good news, positive thinking. Um, Taurus energy could be a bit heavy and weighted down and a real concentrated focus energy. And so just having these little sextiles, especially with Jupiter to bring in a bit of, good luck and expansion and positivity and optimism, um, is great, especially for learning, communicating, and making plans. And Venus sextile with Neptune is also quite beautiful because it softens the tone. Venus just sliding into Gemini is a bit more curious, a bit more playful, um, but still, brings in that romance and beauty and attractive, pleasureful energy that still deals with compassion and love, and with the blend of the Gemini makes it a bit creative and lens for emotional connection in some way, shape, or form. So this could continue to soften what would have been, you know, a pretty, grounded, focused, structured week. Yeah. Or strong. I don't want to call them weeks. We're going to call them strongs. All right. So for the upcoming 7 days, these are some practical, you know, steps that we could take to do it major. Number one is to slow down and ground yourself. Okay. Slow down and ground yourself. Number two, build what you started last week. Build what you started last week or last month or, in the last zodiac sign. Okay. Whatever you were building in Aries in this Taurus season, we need to sustain it. Number three is to be intentional with your words. Do what you say and say what you mean. Number four is to stay flexible. I was writing down these earlier today. So stay flexible. We talked heavily about how fixated this Taurus energy could be, stubborn, headstrong, you know, unwilling to change. And so in some way, shape, or form, we need to keep our adaptability and keep our flexibility. And so number five, and this is not just for this week, but throughout the whole tower season. Yes, we're trying to be consistent. Yes, we're building structure. Yes, we're, being grounded and consistent. However, we can't resist transformation. We can't resist, those changes and those long term changes that we need to implement. Number six would be to balance discipline with softness. We're going to have those energies exuded or influencing us anyway. Venus entering Gemini, Venus conjuncting Uranus, Venus again sextiling Jupiter. And so there's just a bit of softness and tenderness as well in the air as we grow. All right, so we are no longer in the spark. It's time for us to build. And Taurus is reminding us of that. Um, what you need to nurture, essentially what you nurture grows, right? And so we need to tap into that nurturing energy. And this is again a moment for stability, commit to the path, and let's continue building. All right, major farewell until we meet or greet again. Drop a comment down below and let me know what you think about this video. Let me know what you're building. Let me know what you sparked off in Aries season and how you plan to, stabilize it and structure it in this Taurus season. Uh, yeah, I think that's it, and I'll see you guys in the next video.